A very good morning to you. It's another beautiful Friday morning. Welcome to Lifestyle Friday. My name is James Okumu. Thank you for being a part of the show today. Now, last week, we had begun a conversation, but we got into a bit of technical problems. We were not able to connect with our guest on Zoom, network issues, and I did promise you that we'll ensure that we have this conversation. So here we are today having this conversation. It's all about pregnant virgins. Where is this coming from? A couple of weeks ago, I saw a post on one of the pages and the groups I am part of on Facebook, a group where we talk about relationships and marriage. And this lady was presenting a scenario, and she said that she has never been sexually intimate with her boyfriend. They've not engaged in penetrative sex, but they fool around here and there, kissing each other, touching one another, all those things. And now she's pregnant. And the boyfriend has said, it can't be me. It can't be me. And the interesting part was not that. The interesting part was in the comments, because several other ladies also shared experiences that are similar to that one on how they got pregnant without penetrative sex. And there was a big argument, and I thought we need to talk about this. We need to go back to school and have a biology lesson to find out how does pregnancy occur and what are the conditions that make it conducive for a pregnancy to occur. So Dr. will be joining us shortly, even as we get into this discussion. And last week, when I introduced this discussion, one lady also SMS'd and said the same thing happened to her 20 years ago. Well, we'll find out how pregnancy happens today on Lifestyle Friday on Jam 316. Today we're talking about pregnant virgins, and so glad that we can have this discussion. We're being joined via Zoom by Dr. Stephen Kimotho Karanja, who is a practicing consultant, obstetrician and gynecologist, and also currently the chairman of Kenya Catholic Doctors Association. Dr. How are you doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm very fine. I'm so glad we're able to do this today. Last week we were so excited, lakini technology got let down. But I believe everything works together for good.
For those who fear the Lord.
Yes. Now, this is a very interesting discussion. In fact, I just want to pick this post that was on Facebook and read it verbatim for you. Then we can kickstart this discussion. This post said this. It said, my boyfriend and I kiss and make out and engage in petting and touching each other, but we have never had penetrative sex. So it was a shock to me when I missed my menses for 3 months, and when I shared with my girlfriends, they jokingly told me to get a pregnancy test kit, which I did, and I realized that I am pregnant. I've shared this with my boyfriend, and he is mad at me. He thinks I have cheated on him because he is sure we have not engaged in sex as such, just fooling around with each other. So, Daktari, is that possible?
Fortunately, yes, it is possible. And it is not just starting.
Yes.
It has happened throughout time. And biology always teaches us that it should happen.
Okay.
And therefore, one has to understand a few things in situations like this, especially when we talk about virginity.
Yes.
Virginity means in package. It has not been unpackaged. It has not, whatever it is, including a girl, she's still inside the package. The package has not been touched. The package has not been pet. Nobody has been petting this package. If you remove the cover of the package, virginity has gone. So she is not a virgin, and therefore, of course, she's expected to be pregnant. And number two, it has never been in biology necessary that penetration take place before conception takes place. So in fact, this man should come up and know that they have not been doing anything virgin, that what they have been doing is actually sexual intercourse, and that in fact, he has made his girlfriend pregnant. And it's very sad to hear that, because they may actually even be educated people.
They are.
But they didn't know this. But biology does not cheat.
Ooh.
Biology says that you do not need penetration. A philosopher asked one day,
mm-hmm.
what are the longest legs that a person should have? And the answer was quite simple. If they can reach the ground, they are long enough.
Uh-huh.
And therefore, remember, you do not need a foot-long leg to reach and to impregnate.
Mm.
What you need is to deposit male seeds
Mm-hmm.
even outside the underclothing of a girl.
Oh.
Outside, not on her body.
No, on the clothes.
Outside.
Uh-huh.
She will conceive, and here maybe I take a very short time to inform our viewer
Mm-hmm.
what the mystery that God has made into conception.
Yes, please do.
Conception in biology takes place like this, that for any woman who has gone beyond puberty
Mm-hmm.
to conceive, she needs a transport system that God has made that no human being has been able to replicate it at all.
Okay.
It is called mucus.
Mm.
This mucus, something, when it leaves of woman,
Yeah.
it is manufactured in the cervix, comes down the body of the woman
Mm-hmm.
to the outside, and wherever any male seed is hiding, it will be looked for,
Mm-hmm.
packaged, fed, cared for, and transported all the way to the egg.
Wow.
And therefore, there is no need to undress. And therefore, this message, and especially from you and me,
Mm-hmm.
and especially from the family radio, I think we need to be absolutely clear about what virginity means.
That's true.
Virginity means the original state,
Mm-hmm.
untouched, uncontaminated. That is a virgin. But the minute a girl starts kissing,
Mm-hmm.
starts fondling,
Mm-hmm.
and starts pulling each other close to each other,
Yeah.
virginity disappeared a long time. They are now, in fact, experienced in the works of this world. But I do not worry more about girls myself,
Yeah.
because virginity must always be male-driven.
Oh, what do you mean by that, Daktari?
What I mean is that when I look at our sons and our grandchildren,
Yeah.
I foresee, if we are truly good parents,
Mm-hmm.
a new generation that will have boys who will never allow themselves to be contaminated by a girl, who will not accept to be touched by a girl, because then their value goes down. They are no longer virgins. And any man who marries,
Mm-hmm.
any young man who marries a girl, and he is not a virgin, one day he may be asked by the Creator, where is your firstborn? Because like now there is a young man you tell me about,
Yes.
who is saying that the girl is cheating on him.
Yes.
He is wrong. She is not cheating on him.
Mm-hmm.
He allowed himself to be touched by a girl, and that girl was fertile.
Mm.
When a girl is fertile, she is something special.
Yes.
You do not need penetration.
Wow.
If you fondle her, and if in your doing those fondling things of yours, the male seeds are released.
Yes.
And they do not need to be released in a full-blown release.
Mm-mm.
Even the little fluid that comes in the copper from the glands
Yes.
for lubrication
Yes.
has enough seeds to impregnate.
Ooh.
And therefore,
Yes.
we are not talking about virgin pregnancy.
That's an
They
impossibility.
are not, none of them is a virgin here, neither the girls nor the boys. All of them are watu wamezoea hii kazi.
Daktari, I love what you're saying, because even as Christians, our standards should be higher, and I love that you're redefining for us what true virginity is all about. The other aspect that came out of that post, because it's very interesting, it is the men who are saying it is not possible, it is not possible. But then the other question that came in was, how long then can the male seed stay outside and still be alive? Because a lot of people are saying, oh, no. The male seed cannot be out here for 2-3 minutes and still be alive. If there's nowhere to go, it will die. Educate us, Daktari.
I like the question you asked, because it also happens in marriage too.
Yes.
The female system has been created. You see, when God says, let us create him in our own image and likeness.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't say that when he was making a woman.
Mm.
He made something extremely special.
Yes.
He said, let us make him a helper.
Mm-hmm.
And this creature that God made, our mothers, our daughters, our wives, they are so special that they exist two in one.
Okay.
98% of the life of any woman after puberty and until menopause, she cannot have a child. She's infertile. 98% of her life.
Wow.
In 2% of her life, she gets into an extremely supernatural situation called fertility.
Only 2%?
2% of her whole life.
Wow.
She gets into this situation when she is supernatural, when she is working with the gods.
Yes.
Because remember, only in her a new soul can be co-created.
Yeah.
During that time, she produces a transport medium that goes out to look for male seeds in that 2% of her life. And that is the time I told you, whether the male seeds have been deposited outside the fabric, the mucus will pass in between fabric, God get them and preserve them and transport them to where the egg is.
Wow.
So how long do the male seeds survive outside? In normal situations, when a woman is infertile, 98% of her life, they can only survive both outside and even inside her system for 5 to 10 minutes maximum.
Really?
Yes.
Even inside her, 5 to 10 minutes?
Even inside her, they survive for 5 to 10 minutes. That system, the system that lives in the sanctuary of life.
Wow.
That birth canal you see
is
the most hostile part of the female body.
Oh.
The acidity of that system is between 3.9 and 4.5 pH, the pH of the birth canal.
Wow.
This canal, this system that leads to the sanctuary, which is the womb, can never allow anybody to grow in it, to live in it, to survive, and especially poor male seeds. Whatever they are doing there, they'll be killed on sight.
Oh my goodness.
In fact, that is why our great never had any infection.
Yes.
because they were able to maintain this acidity at all times, because they did not suffocate the organisms produce this life-saving acidity.
Yeah.
But when this acidity has been removed by the mucus, by the transport system,
yes,
then can survive inside the woman for a day, 2 days,
wow,
3 days, or even more.
Wow.
Because when these mucus exist, it fetches them, it makes special compartments for them, and it hides some inside the factories called crypts of the cervix, and to wait for when the egg will be ready. And therefore, a man can be with his wife today and go to America.
Yeah.
And she will be conceiving from him when he's already in America and she's here.
Wow.
As long as that mucus was there. And therefore, I pity these boys because their greatest problem is what we have given them. We as their parents.
Okay.
Me and you and the others.
Yeah.
We have taken them to schools which taught them a lot of chemistry, a lot of tree, a lot of what. They came out with nothing except certificates. On the issues of life and faith, they know nothing.
Yeah.
They know nothing about real biology. Our great-grandfathers taught what I'm teaching you now.
Really?
Yes, because it was part of life. And that is why in every Christian, do not even before Christ,
yeah,
in every community that prayed to the true God, the one God, the omnipresent, men never shared beds with women. Because men are the givers of the life-giving seeds. They were sequestered into things my community called it the Ingira. In your community, they must have called it something else. But that was the reason. Because you can't play with the male seeds.
Yes.
And because of the change of superficial education that we have now, that is why you see all ladies, including very young ones, being poisoned against themselves by contraception because they do not understand how difficult it is for them to become pregnant.
Wow. You know, Dr.
But like I said, virginity is given by men, not women. For the man must refuse to be touched by any woman unless he is ready with her, and you know the of the bone belongs to God. Not throw away your firstborn, not touch your grandson.
We seem to be losing you, Daktari.
Now
say that again. Yeah, I can. Inakwama, but you're mentioning something about the firstborn. Say that again.
I said that the firstborn does not belong to men and women. Firstborn belong to God. Every one of us will answer where their firstborn is. Do not lose him. You must school him.
Yes.
To be the child of God, to be your inheritance. To go and tell God how good a father you are.
Yes.
You don't do that by allowing girls to touch you.
Wow. Daktari, I love an aspect that you have brought in, and we'll talk about it shortly. You know, when you are describing this whole process, you know, you described it in such a way that, you know, it's a holy process. It's a process that's filled with reverence. You know, when you talked about the womb being a sanctuary, I mean, I just felt something. You know, this is a miraculous process that God allows us to be a part of, but we have belittled it in this day and in this culture. So we'll talk a bit about that and how we need to communicate to our children and the young people about the sanctity of sex and about the holiness that this act should be indulged in between a husband and a wife. You are watching the Lifestyle Friday on Family TV and listening to us on Family Radio 316. Daktari has said there's nothing like pregnant virgins. There was only one pregnant virgin, and we know that from the Bible. These other ones we are talking about, you have already defiled yourself the moment you start engaging in all the kissing and the petting and all these other things. But you know what? I thank God that we have a God who forgives and a God who can give us second chances. So we are not doing this to condemn you. If you find yourself, you have already gone through that process. We are not here to condemn you. We are here to point you back to God, to tell you we serve a God who is able to forgive and he is able to restore. It is Lifestyle Friday on Jam 316, and we are talking about pregnant virgins, but Daktari has said that's not possible. You cannot have a virgin who's pregnant, and he has redefined for us what virginity means. Virginity means untouched. The package has never been opened, but the scenario we are presenting today, the package was opened and touched, and things happened, and so doesn't qualify to be a virgin. But Daktari, back to you on the whole issue of the sanctity and the holiness of our sexuality and sexual intercourse. How should we communicate this to our young people? Because one of the trends that has been a bit worrying for me, even in church circles, is young people believing that as long as there's no penetration, then sex did not happen. And so they engage in all these other things but don't penetrate. And so they still claim, I'm a virgin, I'm untouched. How do we need to communicate better to them for them to gain a deeper understanding of the sanctity of our sexuality and sexual intercourse?
One of the most important things, and especially for us in the church, is to be very, very, very clear how we talk to our young children from when they are young and as they grow up through youth groups and the rest. And we must change. We must refocus completely. We must change the narrative of our Christian education and start emphasizing more on purity.
Okay.
Because purity is everything. And purity of body does not just happen. Purity of the body comes from purity of heart.
Yeah.
And purity of heart is a product of purity of the spirit. And we who are Christians, start living the talk and live the purity of the spirit, which will make our hearts pure.
Yes.
And when our hearts are pure, our bodies will be pure and valued. When we talk to our children like this, and if we can show this by example, our children will follow. The greatest danger that we are now are for those of us who are adults, both parents and also teachers in all forms, including in Christian teaching. We have developed terrible impurity of the spirit. Our speech is full of impurity. Our nuances, what we say, is full of impurity. So our hearts become impure. And from an impure heart, you always harvest an impure body. And you will see even men, even adult men, hugging their adult daughters, and adult daughters who already are real women physically, and they are hugging their adult fathers, neither of them pure enough to realize that your adult daughter is an adult woman, and her adult father is actually an adult man. And they are doing this and still saying about being Christian. It is the example of purity that we are missing. It is the conversation that we lost somewhere. I think myself, many years ago in this country, that we lost the conversation of purity.
You know,
the narrative must come back.
You know, Dr.
When you speak,
yeah, sorry for cutting you short, Dr. I've had conversations with a good number of young people on this whole subject of purity, and one of the things they keep saying the world has changed. It is not possible for us to remain pure in this day and age. How do you answer such a young person?
I answer them quite clearly.
Yes.
And I look for some money. I don't have money, but I would look for some money and take them to Turkana.
Uh-huh.
The Turkana do not live in the 17th century, they live today.
Yes.
They vote today, like your son and my son.
Mm-hmm.
Girls still walk naked with their breasts, standing up front, and nobody ever looks at them as sexual organs.
Mm-hmm.
The world has changed because the modern young person has become totally impure in mind, absolutely contaminated.
Mm-hmm.
When you go into a sewer, do not expect to get anything else except sewage.
Yes, that is so true. Pastor, I keep calling you Pastor because you refer a lot to the Bible. Daktari, I'm looking at the comments on this post that we referred to, and it seems like the men don't understand this biology. You know, it seems like the men are the ones with doubt. They are the ones who don't understand even how our bodies function. And that tells me we have a lot to do in educating our young men and our boys and even some of our adults, because we don't seem to understand how things work and we don't seem to understand this whole concept of purity. Where do we begin? Is this a lost cause?
The Church of Christ forgot something that came by force and entered into the world, and it is never going to go.
What is that?
That in fact, more than 1/3 of all the young men we are trying to educate are very unfortunate. They never had fathers.
Oh.
They were educated without a father.
Yes.
And you are going to, who was supposed to teach this boy things of men? They do not know things of men. And because a lot of us do not even teach our own sons the things of men.
Yes.
And this is because we allowed ourselves as a society to be totally contaminated, to start living pure Christianity, where a man would seclude himself with his boys and teach them to be boys.
Yes.
And where the mother would exclude herself with her girls and teach them to be girls. And you are on the same table for supper, you sleep in the same house, sometimes the same beds. Children see you and your mother going to bed together. This is what they have seen. They know what you are going to do in there. That never happened to us. We thought children were bought because our fathers always lived in a small house outside. We never knew when they ever met. It is the example we have given. We must not mourn. We must confront the narrative.
Yes.
And the narrative is that as the elders, as the fathers, as the parents, must start changing the narrative.
Okay.
Must start creating the concept of purity at home. For what you plant at home is what your children will get mainly. Because home is the greatest and the smallest and the most powerful Christian union. Is your home.
Yes.
When purity lives there, then your family, the father, the mother, and the children will have a mind of purity.
Yes.
That will create a heart of purity, and the harvest will be a pure body.
Yeah.
When your daughter will ask for blessings from you and not come and hug you, and she's a big girl, then purity is starting to show. Your grandfather would never have embraced his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
The daughter would have gone for blessings, and most, like in my community, the fathers would bless the children by placing their hand on their head and invoking the blessings of the Lord over this child. Now we hug their mother, we hug the daughters, we have our friends' wives and their daughters, and we are Christian. Praise God, brother.
Yes.
I hug your wife, you hug my wife, I hug your daughter, you hug my daughter. We are just outright dirty things. We must not bring the name of Jesus Christ in these situations.
Yes.
When we chase this away from our meetings, from our life, when we start planting in those who give example, the purity of the mind, the purity of the heart, and the purity of the body, I promise you that Jesus who resurrected lives in us. And therefore, we have the same power that defeated death.
Yes.
Something like just purity is so simple that you can start doing it now. And I will start doing it now. And you just need one person, and we shall change the world, my friend.
I'm telling you. Oh, my goodness. Daktari, I have enjoyed this conversation. You know, I keep wondering, do you preach at times?
Myself?
Yes.
You can't be a Christian doctor and not be a preacher man.
Wow.
Because Jesus Christ must live in the work you do.
Yes.
If he doesn't live in the work you do, you are a pagan doctor. Yes.
Wow.
Whatever I do as a doctor, if you can't see Christ in it, then you have confronted a pagan doctor, and there are many.
Wow. I love that. I love your convictions. I love the message you've brought to us today. And we have learned a few things where biology is concerned. You know, now we know better.
Thank you very much.
Now we know better, Daktari. We will definitely invite you back to this show again. I believe there's so much more we can learn from you. But unfortunately for today, I'm looking at the clock and our time is far gone. We need to wrap it up. What would your parting show?
I want to thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me to this forum.
Yes.
And that lady has been struggling to catch me, and this technology is here.
Yes.
The viewer understands this.
Yes.
And for family radio, when you can cover something like this,
yes,
it is bigger than you, it is bigger than me.
Yes.
And therefore we must pray that maybe the Lord of harvest bring down more to us,
yes,
that we may be able to share with his creation. Thank you, and God bless you.
Wow, Daktari, asante sana. I'm out of time for this discussion, but I hope you have learned something. I have learned quite a bit. My friends, young people, stop fooling around. Stop fooling around. The way God has orchestrated this thing called pregnancy and conception is a miracle. It's unbelievable. So let's stop fooling around. Let's maintain purity. Parents, we have been given a challenge because we are setting the pace and we are the example that our children are seeing. Are we teaching them and are we demonstrating to them what it means to live a life of purity? Well, that's it for today. Coming on in a short while, we'll have our other segment, Food for Thought, with Professor Ndetei, even as we continue with our discussion on suicide and what brings about such thoughts and how you can help somebody who is suicidal.
Food for Thought with Professor David Ndetei.
A very good morning to you. Welcome to another episode of Food for Thought with Professor Ndete. Now, if you joined us last week, we kicked off a series looking at suicide, and we did an intro just understanding what goes on in the mind of somebody who's suicidal and what drives people to that place where they want to take their lives. Now, last week, Professor had mentioned about statistics and the Kenyan scene and what's happening where suicide on the Kenyan front is concerned. I believe we'll take a look at that today and also talk a bit about para-suicide. If you don't know what that is, then listen in because we have an interesting conversation for you today. Before you give us the numbers, the Kenyan numbers, I'm just thinking, what about, there are those people who keep crying wolf, so to speak. There are those people who are always threatening that I will kill myself, but they never actually get to do it. It's almost like they use it as a tool to get what they want or to manipulate others. Where would you place that kind of a person?
These are people, we call them parasuicides.
Okay. There's even a name for them.
Yeah, there's a term for that. They do all kinds of things, cut their wheels, or make prayers. Those are very easy to deal with. Yes, there are those kinds of people. But people who really want, determined to kill themselves, they keep it to themselves very secretly. And they guard it because they want to be discovered only after it has happened.
Okay.
Yes, those people, if I may, you allow me, those people we call parasuicides. They want to manipulate them. They want to manipulate other people. Maybe they want to make people feel guilty that you are my friend or your girlfriend or boyfriend. You left me or you did this thing to me, and I'm going to teach you a lesson.
Yes.
And, they threaten to do this. Others want to test the benevolence of God. If I die, then God's will that I die. If I don't die, they are just testing the waters. And those people who have this kind of thing, they are the kind of people, say a child has a quarrel with the father or with the mother. And this is a very common story, by the way.
Yes.
And now it goes to our bedroom and it comes brandishing an empty bottle. I have taken all these medicines. I am going to die. So please go and look for another child whom you love better than me. You hate me. Of course, the drama changes. These guys rush, or boys rush to the hospital, casualty. They do stomach washout, which is not very comfortable. And they don't want to have that experience again because in the first place, they didn't want to kill themselves.
Yeah.
Then the mother or the father, the next time there's an issue, say, you are my child. You cannot argue with me. Do what I tell you, and I don't want to hear your ideas. Next time there's that issue, they'll sit back and listen. So they're manipulated. The dangerous thing is, people may take some tablets to draw attention to other people, but things can go wrong.
Yes.
Actually, it's kind of accidental death. It was never intended.
Yes.
But because we didn't take all the logistics of what could possibly happen, they end up dying. And that becomes what it is. It's an accidental suicide.
Okay.
It was not really intended. But we cannot ignore it. We cannot ignore it because they talk about it.
Yes.
You see, the other one we can ignore, the reason why we ignore it because we do not know, we are not getting the signs. But if they start talking like that, then you can say, tell mom and dad, the problem here, we need to talk about it. So that's why I'm saying it's much easier to deal with.
Okay.
But those people who really want to kill themselves, because they blame themselves for what is happening. The parasuicides are blaming somebody else. The suicidal person is
blaming themselves.
Blaming himself or herself.
Wow.
And therefore, because they think they are terrible, that's when they make all the plans to kill themselves secretly, so that they are only discovered when it's too late. That is their plan.
Wow. Professor, you had mentioned earlier that you have some statistics and some numbers. Share those with us so that we know what's happening in our country.
Please, I'm asking the viewers to let me read these things. I can actually give you some figures. There are 3 stages in suicidal ideas before they go to suicidal plans. And the suicidal plans are now turned to suicidal activities. So we are talking about suicidal ideas, suicidal thoughts. And coming from the bottom, and we asked questions. And these are questions that are asked internationally. I mean, they are not just questions that instrument that we developed here. And we are looking close to 10,000 youth. That's quite a big sample. In fact, when I was viewing the literature, our sample is one of the biggest recorded anywhere in the world, one research. People, these are the kind of questions you would ask. Would you wish you were dead? 10% or close to 11%.
Wow.
Did you think you were better off dead? 12%. Did you have thoughts of suicide even though you would not really do it? That's a key one. They will not really do it. 12%. Did you frequently think of dying in a passive way, like going to sleep and not waking up? 14%. Did you seriously consider suicide, taking away your life? 14%. Actually, just about 15%. Now listen to this. Did you think about a specific way to take your life? We are talking about 19%.
Wow.
Yes, 19%. This is very worrying. I am aware of other studies that have been done in Africa where they didn't find 19%, they found 23%. Some other countries, some other studies in Europe, we found a similar figure. But the fact is, this is the way it is in the Kenyan setting.
Do you have an age bracket of the people who are interviewed?
Well, yes, I have the age bracket, but I'm also being very careful because I don't want to reveal an identity.
Okay.
But this point. We looked at these age brackets, and the younger the people are, the more likely they are to develop this condition. We are actually talking about school-going children.
Oh my goodness.
Did you hear me? School-going children.
Yes.
By the time we get, say, to colleges and the universities, the prevalence goes down much, much easier because there are different kinds of coping with the stresses. By the time they get to 22, 23, this part of the brain has developed so they are able to reason with themselves because there's this frontal part of the brain that is able to reason. And that really helps.
Okay.
There are better ways of dealing with the situation. Maybe they can relate with peers and so on. So the point I'm trying to make is suicide is mainly a phenomenon of young people.
Wow.
And the older they grow, the less it becomes. Also, depression, and listen to this, depression tends to be more common in females.
Oh.
Girls, mothers, and so forth. Depression is more common in females. It's more in the female gender than it is in the male gender. But the irony of it is those people who commit suicide are more of the male gender than the female gender.
In fact, I was going to ask you that question later on because I keep hearing that more More men commit suicide, yeah. So how does that work out then?
I'll tell you.
Yeah, tell me.
Yes, I'll tell you. It is something that has been found consistent across the world.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, men tend to be violent. And we know men are more violent with even other people.
Mm-hmm.
They're also more violent to themselves. And when they decide to kill themselves, they use more violent and therefore more effective ways of killing themselves.
Wow.
Like jumping eyes, from hanging, sticking knives into their hearts, setting themselves on fire, as opposed to females who tend to take less active ways of committing suicide or taking away their lives. We think that is the explanation.
Okay.
But these are global statistics. The interesting thing is that what is found in the rest of the world is what we are finding
in our own country.
We are part of the globe. Yes.
Wonderful. Indeed, information is power, especially information that you put to use. And I'm sure the more we continue having these conversations about mental health, the less stigma will be associated with mental health issues. Remember, even as the Bible says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Let's put focus and help each other where our mental state and our mental health is concerned. That's Food for Thought with Professor Ndetey for today. Have a great day.
For this and more of our shows, log on to www.familymediaonline.com to enjoy a wide variety of programs, from current affairs to testimonials and features, pastoral and inspirational shows, kids entertainment, and so much more. Also stream live on www.familymedia.tv.